sure that we so hi team, welcome, and we'll let you take the floor.
Before we take the floor, I want to just check because we have two students with us helping us give our presentation. Can I just check, is Alexander Lamas in the meeting at all?
Let me check 1 second.
Okay.
Search.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. I see Miel.
What was the last name?
Lamas, Lamas.
I'm not seeing anyone with that name in the attendee list.
All right, that's okay. We can get started, and if he manages to make it on, then that'll be great. But so thank you, first of all, Gabriella, Adam, thank you to the interpreters. It is really an honor and a pleasure to be here. So we're Claremont Academy. This is an image of many of my students at a play space we visited as part of the research process. My name is Layla Chirhaftali, and I am the 6th grade reading, writing, and social studies teacher.
And my name is Luke Joyner, and I teach college students as well as CPS high school students around Chicago, and my college class is collaborating with Claremont on this project. Can everybody see the slides just fine? Cool. So we're going to start by talking a little bit about Claremont and its needs and sort of what prompted this project. Then, as Gabriella alluded to, since we do have a process that's ongoing with the 6th grade that ties into this grant, we wanted to talk a little bit about what that process has been and how that process has been really fueling energy amongst the Claremont student body and parents and community around the possibility of getting this grant. And then we also are going to talk about our plan if we get the grant, because as this is an ongoing process, we've been trying to kind of factor in the possibility of getting the grant into the way we've been developing this process with both the 6th graders and the college students. So I'll turn things over to Layla and the 6th graders to start off.
Okay, so this project was born out of frustration amongst teachers and students with our current schoolyard. Miel, will you unmute and tell us a little bit about some of the problems with our schoolyard?
So some of the problems with our schoolyard is that we don't have anything to do, pretty much. It's just grass and like dead trees, and there's really nothing there for us to really do. And the boys, they stay in the field and play football, but the girls, we don't have anything to do. And also our fence, okay, also, never mind.
I can hop in about the fence. The fence is very low and open, and our kids actually sometimes use it as play equipment, which is, you know, a teacher's nightmare. But kids are able to hop the fence. Similarly, strangers on the street can see in or couldn't even come in. Let's talk about, so there is an existing playground sort of attached to Claremont. Mia, will you share about that?
Okay, so our playground is currently across the street from our school, and which makes it not very safe for kids and the teachers. Our playground is not that big at all, which is not fulfilling for a whole 6th grade class. And our playground is not really for big kids, it's mostly for the younger kids. Also, some big safety issues is that our playground is next to an alley and an abandoned house. And there is sometimes broken glass there, which is not safe at all for the younger kids and us. And this is because our park is open to the public. And to sum all this up, when we are playing soccer, the ball always goes in either the alley or the back of the abandoned house. And this pretty much sums up the playground problems that we have. And I would say that my partner Alex could take over, but I don't know if he's here.
We started out, Luke, if you can go to the next slide. With the students, we started out with a pretty intensive research process that I designed using the social studies standards, so it was part of our curriculum. So we started out by looking at maps of Claremont using some of the data that the city puts out. And we compared it to the community around Waters Elementary, which you can see here, to get some, to get a sense of why is a walkable neighborhood important. Mia, do you want to jump in here?
Yes. So pretty much we don't really have, on the south side, we don't have, mainly by our school, we don't have much pedestrian streets, which is kind of a problem. Also, we need more parks, mostly on the south side, because we discovered that if we had more parks on the south side, that like the crime rate will go down a little bit, because people wouldn't feel comfortable doing crimes in front of people because there will be witnesses. And that is why we need more parks.
Thank you so much, Miel. You all can see how lucky I am to work with students as bright and gifted as Miel. So students did a lot of research into what are some of the racial disparities and class disparities within walkable neighborhoods and outdoor space more broadly than just Claremont. So getting into our process, Luke has a kind of timeline slide here. So right now, Claremont students, 6th grade students, have really been doing a lot of input collections. So we visited many different play spaces around the city, not just, as I told Miel and her classmates, not just to play, but as researchers. We also did some anecdotal observations at Claremont. So we went and we noticed, you can see the work students did here. Students mapped out how other kids play and jotted down what kinds of things they saw as a way of figuring out what the needs of the Claremont community were. And that is a list of all of the group's observations. So you can see things like kids are using the fence for gymnastics. Kids are taking the poles, like the light poles, and creating play equipment out of it. They're jumping on the bottom of the hill. You know, kids are amazing because they have this creativity and they take things like our dead trees and they try to turn them into play structures. And so our big question is, how can we create something that reinforces that creativity but removes some of the safety concerns? Luke, is there anything you want to?
Sorry, Leila. I was just going to say, we also showed them pictures of a variety of playgrounds around the city and around the world to kind of help stimulate their ideas of what a playground and what outdoor learning spaces could be, so that we, you know, could not necessarily just think small, but really think big in anticipation of hopefully, you know, applying for this grant. And then, like Layla said, the students themselves turned that into a survey of 140 people from around the school, where the rest of the school community were able to actually respond to some of the questions that the sixth graders came up with. Meanwhile, the college students that I've been working with have been also doing some research and visiting the sixth graders and talking with them about the research process in anticipation of a design process that's about to happen over the next few weeks. So we showed the sixth graders too some pictures of that elementary school we were comparing to in the maps of Waters, which has all kinds of different wonderful outdoor areas. Those mosaic benches, mosaics around the entry to the school. They have an open area for play with a couple different nice play surfaces. They have a beautiful outdoor farm area on their school campus. They have a lot of beautiful things where art projects not to be funded by the grant, but to latch into if there were infrastructure to support them. And then they also have a playground, a couple different playgrounds, a nature play area and a playground for the younger kids. I know we're running low on time, so I'm trying to go fast. So anyway, we're about to start jumping in with both the sixth graders and the college students into a design process and then a sample building prototype process, which we've gotten a little bit of funding to set up on the Claremont site as a way of teaching the sixth graders what it takes to build small components in the hope that the grant might be able to fund larger infrastructural components. And we have support on this project from the principal of the school, the assistant principal. This has been like Layla said, a project that involves both the pedagogy of the school and also hopefully the sort of ground of the school and actually might translate into reality. We also have support from the 16th Ward Alderman Stephanie Coleman and from iGrow Chicago, where we visited a few blocks away on the other side of the tracks. 140 students as staff replied to our survey and a lot of sixth grade families. Layla, do you want to add anything?
And I just want to say that I know we have many of our students' families here on the Zoom tonight, so I want to give them a shout out and a thank you.
And with that, we'll open things up to questions because I know we've spent a little too much time. I'm sorry.
No, thank you guys. That was great. Really appreciate this presentation. So if you have any questions, please put them into the Q&A box now. Either Gabby and I or the representatives from Claremont will answer those. So the first question we had, and this could be for the Claremont folks, what are the other funding sources for this plan? I think attendees are curious about what other sources you guys are pursuing.
I can take that one. So we've been very lucky to get other funding sources for the process we've undertaken this fall, which involves sort of building, it culminates hopefully in having a kind of really thoughtful site plan and then also developing a build site that will build smaller components that might not otherwise be funded by the grant. Some of them might be movable components. We've gotten $1,500 for that process from the Chicago Architecture Biennial, and have also gotten some funding through my college class in order to facilitate this fall process. In terms of additional funding for the broader vision, we've been waiting to see what will happen with this grant and then are thinking about pursuing additional funding to supplement the grant, especially if there are things that the grant may not fund that we might want to include in the project once CPS, if we get the grant, were to take over the project.
Thank you. Another question is, will this be a space that's open to the public, particularly outside of school hours, like on the weekend or things like that?
Yes, so most CPS playgrounds are available to the public outside of school hours. So that is what we're envisioning. So, we're hoping to have a fence that will, shade visibility, but the goal is not to lock people out. We do want it to be available to the public.
And I would just add too that the principal of the school is very keen on the possibility, since there is a large field as well as a smaller one, of potentially incorporating either a track or some other athletic field, potentially with some lights. If that were the case, then those would be resources that might also be available to the public, depending on the sort of scope of what's possible within the grant. And we would be really interested in incorporating big practical elements as well as sort of smaller home build elements into the overall plan that the college students and the sixth graders are developing together over the next few weeks. Also, if anyone has feedback in the chat about our process, we still are able to kind of, respond to that. So we'd be very open to that if anyone has any ideas.
Thank you. And then another question here, and you guys might not know the answer to this, which is totally fine, but one attendee is curious about what would become of the playground across the street, if that would remain as a questionable place to play, or if that's in part of your guys' discussions about what that space would be utilized for.
I can take that. So that space is currently open to the public, even during school hours. So I think it would continue to be open to the public. It would probably not be the main play space used by the school, possibly, depending on the playground, possibly even for the younger kids. But our goal is to target the playground / outdoor learning area to grades 4 through 8, because that area will remain an option for younger students. I know Alexander is here, and I want to give him a chance to speak if he's able to join. Alexander, are you here? Yes, I see you in the chat. Can we add Alexander to the panelists?
Yes, let me try. I think I tried. Oh, it says he is a panelist, allowed to talk. Okay, let me see.
There we go.
Okay, is it working now?
Yes, Alexander, I'm so glad you could join us. And if anyone has a question for Alexander, we're in the Q&A. So if anyone has a question for the student perspective, that is definitely something Alexander can handle. But Alexander, in the meantime, because we were just we were just talking about the playground across the street and the schoolyard, is there anything you want to share about the schoolyard that we have at Claremont?
Yeah, it's because and also if you remember that map at earlier when we were in class and you showed me and Luke showed me that map of like the deaths near the area. Yeah, that one, it showed a lot. So someone died right next to the school, kind of right next to it, really close. He said it was right next to the park down the street. Yeah.
Yeah, our students are really concerned about safety and about having safe places to play. Are there any other questions? Especially any questions for the student perspective? Or
I just wanted to shout out real quickly. Someone in the chat, Dana, said, thanks for giving the kids inclusion in this process. That was the whole point of what we're trying to do, is make this kid driven and driven by the people who are actually using this space the whole way through. So thank you so much for that comment. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. So no more questions and we should move on to the next semifinalist. So thank you both so much. Thank you to both of the students who are able to join. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening for this.
Thank you all so much for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, so I'm going to send you back to the attendee part of the webinar. Oops. Looks like we're okay. So next, let me go back to sharing my screen. Oh wait, Alex is still here. Okay. So next we're going to go back to the slides for a second. The second project to present tonight is Mckinley Park, and they're interested in expanding Mckinley Park recreation through gardening and skating. So the property is Mckinley Park. It's at 3700 South Damon and Western. The sponsoring organization is the Mckinley Park Development Council. Areas for improvement. This proposal covers areas on both ends of Mckinley Park, the ice rink on Western Avenue, and 3 adjoining garden projects on the island between the 2 halves of 3700 to 3900 South Damon. There are 5 components: adapting the skating rink for year-round use, expanding the community garden to 8 more plots, relocating the mutual aid garden to be near the community garden, creating an intergenerational play garden, fencing the combined gardens, and extending the paved path on the Damon Island to make all gardens accessible for wheelchairs and strollers. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then the Claremont team could raise their hands, and I will add you to our...
The McKinley team.
Oh, sorry, McKinley. Sorry.
We're still at Claremont. We're moving on.
We're moving on. Thank you. This is the world of Zooms now, jumping back and forth. Wait. Well, there were a number of folks on this team. I just want to make sure they're all able to join. Okay. Looks like Dana was the last one to join.
4 or 5, yeah, that's
Great. Okay, looks like everyone is here. And you have the floor.
all right. Hi, everybody. This is the team from McKinley Park. Give me 1 sec to get up our deck, and we are really, really excited to be here and talk to you about our park. So hi, I'm Kate. This is the team from McKinley Park. We're talking about our garden and skating rink improvements, and there are 4 community groups that have come together to build this presentation. So the McKinley Park Development Council, the Community Garden, the Mutual Aid, and also the Community Play Garden. And it's really important for us to be working on this together because like McKinley Park is our front yard, it's our town square. It is the center of everything that happens in our neighborhood. So over here, as we said, it goes from Western to Damon. This is the Damon Island that we were talking about, and the skating rink is on the west side, and the collected gardens are going to be on the east side. So one of the things we want to point out is like our park is not just for us. We draw from all of the surrounding communities, from Pilsen, Little Village, Bridgeport, Brighton Park, Back of the Yards, Gage Park, Chinatown, and several others. And this is especially important in this community. Our community is very mixed. We are more than half Latino, and about a quarter Asian. More than half of our families speak a language other than English at home, and we have a lot of multi-generational households. And you may have noticed in the Claremont proposal, I want to give them a shout out. The photo that they used was from the nature play space that it currently exists here in McKinley Park. So that proves our point that it's not just for us. So this is the space that we're talking about for the gardens. We're going to start with the gardens. We'll get to the skating rink at the end. This is the current community garden. And you can see here we have a lovely well-tended plot and an army of volunteers that are very involved with it. Our proposal here would include a play area over here and the mutual aid garden over here, and then an expansion of the existing garden in between. We have a diagram next. Oops. There we go. And so you can kind of see how these things might work together. So again, the community garden, mutual aid, and the play garden. And now I'm going to toss it over to mutual aid to tell you about their piece of the puzzle.
Thanks, Kate. Hey, everyone. My name is Latham. We are so honored to be in such good company tonight. So thank you for this. So I am with McKinley Park Mutual Aid. We are a interracial collective of volunteers in McKinley Park that formed at the beginning of last year, at the beginning of the pandemic, to meet the needs of our neighbors. And so in the past year and some change, we have redistributed over $16,000 of direct aid and untold amounts of other types of resources and support. You can go to the next slide. One of the manifestations of that support was to create a mutual aid garden this last summer in an empty lot that we had access to. This was a really great opportunity for us to build community with each other, but also with neighbors, meet new people, share produce. We had a yard sale here and free store and all that sort of thing, barbecue. But we no longer have a space that we can use in this manner. And so what we envision as part of this proposal is to create a community harvest garden, a mutual aid garden in the park. And we would design the beds in collaboration with community in terms of what was in them, right? So every year we would make sure to circulate a survey, get input, and make sure that the herbs and veggies that we're growing reflect the culinary practices of, as Kate mentioned, our very diverse neighborhood. And so we're really excited about this. The other piece of our proposal is a gathering space. So as I mentioned, this was having this garden that we had this last summer. It was a really excellent opportunity for us to meet in person because we had only been meeting over Zoom. And as a network of volunteers, we don't have a physical space. So it was really important for us to have a physical gathering venue. And we want to bring that out to the community and also use it for ourselves to continue the work that we've been doing. And I'm going to pass it to Nicholas, who has been spearheading the community garden and doing great work there. And he's going to tell you about that.
Thank you, Latham. I'm Nicholas Efrosinis. I manage the community garden in McKinley Park. Our mission has been to build community, share knowledge, and steward a space for community members to produce organic food with minimal investment. This is our 4th growing season in the park, and we're grateful for the security and access to resources that we've been afforded by moving to Park District property. Currently, we host 24 raised garden beds, each one allotted to a gardener for the season. We set group work days to maintain the communal space, but the bed itself is left up to that gardener to do with which they see fit. At the end of the season, we gather, put the beds to rest, and talk about what can be improved. These talks have pointed out shortcomings in our space and design and have also brought about dreams of what the garden could mean for the community at large. None of our 24 beds have ever been left open. We have always had a waiting list, and adding beds would leave fewer disappointed neighbors each season. We can switch slides. As you can see in this diagram, a paved path would accommodate strollers and wheelchairs. A fence would allow gardening parents to feel secure as their children play, and a closer water line would allow easier access. Such improvements to our infrastructure would greatly reduce our most pressing challenges. We can switch this slide again. Joining forces with the mutual aid group would allow neighbors to participate in the community garden at varying levels. It would enable people to harvest and/or tend community beds according to their convenience and need, without the financial or time commitment of adopting a bed for the full season. And it would encourage knowledge and resource sharing amongst neighbors. We want our garden to be more inclusive to all bodies. So we plan to build a wheelchair accessible bed and establish trilingual signage. Joining forces with the community play garden, we can create an enriching opportunities for intergenerational connectivity. We want the space to be welcoming to all. In a neighborhood with contaminated soil, small backyards tucked in the shade between tall buildings and garages, we dream of an oasis. We want this space to empower our community to learn and practice sustainable food production. We want to showcase practices which can be brought home to improve the health and happiness of our neighbors, such as fruit tree maintenance and cultivating native perennials. A sensible composting system that will help us reduce waste and give members the experience necessary to potentially set one up in their own yards. By utilizing principles of permaculture, we will be able to improve, to better use our water, maintain our soil fertility, and improve our ecosystem as we take care of ourselves. Thank you, and Jessica is going to address the play space.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are so excited to be here and so humbled that we've been selected to represent McKinley Park. I'm a Chicago Public School pre-K teacher, and I am deeply passionate about bringing nature play to our community. The third piece of this proposal, the gardens as we're calling them, is a nature play space. So the three pieces of this puzzle, the community garden, the mutual aid garden, and the play space, are all together in one space, all fenced in, so that there is, as Nick said, a multi-generational, intergenerational play that is happening in the space. So the space will provide for a place for children, teens, youth, and their caregivers to tend to their raised beds for the community and also to play together in nature. We want the nature play space that has a water feature. So that's something that is lacking currently in McKinley Park. We do have a really wonderful pool, but it's only open a few months out of the year. So the water feature that we would like to put into this play garden, as you can see in the image on the screen, would be a stream or a nature pond, something where children and their caregivers, youth and teens can cool off in the summer and explore nature as well. That same water feature will provide water, much needed water, and access to the gardens. This multi-generational space will include spaces for older people to sit and also engage with nature and the children that they may bring with them as they're sitting in nature. Next slide, please. As you can see on this slide, the red pins are nature play spaces in the city of Chicago. And as you can see, there are a lot of spaces on the north side, north of I-55. And on the south side, there are very few. So the black arrow is pointing to our area, the southwest side. So our nature play space will fill a huge gap in nature play opportunities on the southwest in the city of Chicago. Next slide, please. And the reason that we really want to bring this space to a place where, as Nick had also mentioned, contaminated soil, contaminated air, and a lot of pollution is because we know that nature play provides great benefits to children, to youth, to teens, to adults. And the research has shown this over and over and over again. Access to green spaces positively affects language development, social emotional development, cognitive development, physical development. I could go on and on, mental health, especially in the times that we're living in right now. So now I'm going to introduce Dana, who's going to speak to the other piece, the final piece of our proposal that's on the other side of our park. You're really getting a bang for your buck with our proposal, because with that money that we would get, hopefully from the city, we're getting all of these pieces wrapped into one. And Dana will speak to the skating rink.
Thank you, Jessica. I'm Dana Calderon, a resident of the area, a cultural arts activist, and a founding member of the McKinley Park Development Council. I would like to address the importance and impact of a skate rink expansion of use and how it directly aligns with the McKinley Park Neighborhood Plan, a plan that was co-created by the McKinley Park community and the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. The rink is currently set up for ice skating only and available to the community 3 months out of the year. For the other 9 months, it is kept under lock and key, barricaded by a very unwelcoming chain link fence, and contrary to the sign, wheels are not allowed. The following suggested renovations would not take up a bigger footprint in the park than it already has, yet it would make a great impact. We are requesting a resurfacing of the rink to accommodate both blades and wheels, a structure that can easily transform its use for year-round accessibility. A removal of physical barriers in order to create an open and welcoming skate rink. An update to the perimeter walls of the rink, enhanced by colorful murals created by local artists. Updated seating areas, benches and bleachers for skaters and spectators, and seating areas for the general public to gather. Updated lighting console to create thematic and colorful lighting for holidays, parties, and to shine a light on this gem in our park. And improvements to the existing sound system. Next photo, please. The impacts of this project are many. A year-round skate rink will increase activity in our parks, which in turn creates a safer park deterring unwelcome activity, a holistic approach to mental health, awareness of and reinforcement of positive, healthy lifestyles. The rink can provide a source of revenue and maintain its self-sufficiency by offering classes and workshops through the Chicago Park District, renting space to host private events, creating a space for local arts markets, and offering sponsorship opportunities from local businesses. Skate activities are highly accessible and cross all barriers of age, race, and ethnic and economic backgrounds, abilities, and languages, thus making it welcoming to everyone. The rink would create a wider sense of community by improving open, underutilized space, increasing job and leadership opportunities for our young adults, and welcoming current patrons of the rink to use it year-round, well after the snow has melted. Sadly, there are several citywide rinks under lock and key, but with McKinley Park leading the charge, a grant for this expansion of use could have a positive domino effect, thus bringing a bigger impact to the city, not just our neighborhood. Thank you for the opportunity, and now I'll hand it back to Kate.
Absolutely. And we want to thank all of our neighborhood supporters, including our elected leaders, the Aquinas Literary Center, Literacy, good grief, the Nature Conservancy, and you guys, everybody who's showing up for this. Obviously, we have 4 neighborhood organizations here who've been very involved in this, but there are others who have supported us, and we certainly appreciate it. And now we will take your questions.
Thank you all. Does anyone have any questions? I see one question that isn't directly related to this proposal, and we'll be taking more general questions at the end of the meeting. So if there are any questions particularly pertaining to McKinley Park, please put them in the Q&A chat box now.
I think there's one question that, I just wanted to mention. For some of the expenses that were discussed during the presentation, just a note to clarify for the audience, we may have to go through what we call bond counsel, which is basically the legal body which determines how bond funding can be used. So I know that there were things, I don't know if the trees that you were discussing there would be like new orchard trees or anything, but that type of ruling is kind of above us at this level in terms of what we can determine to be eligible. And for other projects, we have been told that edible plants would not necessarily be part bond eligible. So if there's something, if you want to mention how that you're planning to handle that, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so I'll let Nick address the plants, but I just want to say broadly that we are aware that not every single thing might end up being covered by the funding that we're going to get from that we would get from this grant. So we know that, but we also want to show that we have a larger vision for how all these things work together and what there will be. And if we're not going to get everything funded in one shot, that's okay. But we're looking to handle the big rocks here and improve our space. And, we have very invested community groups who are willing to do this bit by bit. So Nick, you can address the plants. That's your department.
I think that covered it, but as far as the community garden is concerned, the fence, the path, and the potential for the water line, the water source being closer are things that we couldn't possibly really raise money for. This is probably the only source for something like that to happen for us. Fruit trees and plants are inexpensive. We can plant them from seeds. We can do this however we need to do it. But that's labor. We're here with labor.
Great. I see 2 questions in the chat. One person wants to confirm that all components of the project would be accessible to the public. And another question is, what other funding have you received thus far, if any, for some of these improvements?
Absolutely. So yes, all of these proposals would be on Chicago Park property, which is by definition open to the public. So absolutely, this is open to everyone. And also for anybody who wants to plant in a garden, you can join one of these groups or show up to help with the mutual aid garden. And that is open to everyone. As far as funds, each group does have some of their own funding to contribute towards this and that. And I can let Jessica and Latham speak about their situations, if that's relevant.
Yeah, not much to say. I mean, we are volunteer and we sort of just pull our resources together. It's, I think what our main cost is going to be, we'll sort through the details if we have whatever, if we get there. But I think our main cost will probably be like seeds and dirt. But that is something we had to produce already last year, and I know we're capable of doing that. And I think the larger group has already discussed like how we might be able to continue to join forces to do some kind of fundraising to sort of meet whatever other needs there are. So
Yes, and similar
So
response as well for the play space. Sorry, luckily it's a nature play space, and there are always fallen trees and big stumps and logs and sticks and leaves and plentiful in nature. So as Nick had mentioned, the big costs are the infrastructure, the fence, the water line, things that we could not fundraise for on our own.
Perfect, thank you. I see a question. Someone wants to know from the audience if there's a way they can volunteer to help get involved, whether with this process or with some of your all's community organizations.
Absolutely. Can we each drop our community websites in the chat so that people can find us?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Great.
So I see one question that I think Gabby and I will take. It's about, are there any plans to improve the Damon intersection near the garden? There's no walk signs and cars drive through quickly. So that would be if it's on the street outside of Parks properties, that would be outside of the scope of this specific project because the funding will only be available for Park District property. That would be a question for the Department of Transportation pertaining to kind of the broader streetscape planning for that area of the neighborhood. So unfortunately, we don't have a good answer for that question right now. But Andrew, if you want to follow up, we could try to get you in touch with the right representative from that portion of the city. We'll have time for maybe one or two more questions here because we do want to save time for Archer Park. But I see one question about if in your proposal you had specific plans for replacing the current ice rink fence, if it would be replaced or removed or would stay the same.
Right. So the fencing around the rink itself, our biggest vision is to get rid of the chain link and the padlock and open it. Whether or not the perimeter, the rest of the fence remains, is an architectural question for the Chicago Park District. I believe it's up there for safety reasons. But as we look to the expansion of use, how much of it can remain open and how much of it will remain there. But the ideal is to unlock the gates, let people in, widen the areas so that people of all accessibilities can get onto the surface of the rink as well.
Perfect. Okay, well, McKinley Parks folks, thank you very much for your time. This was a really thorough, informative presentation. We'll be sending you back to the audience now, and then we'll be welcoming the Archer Park folks up for the last presentation of the night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, a few more. Great. I think that is everyone. So I'm going to go back to share my screen. And our final project of the night is the Archer Park field renovations. The property is Archer Park at 4901 South Kilbourne. The sponsoring organization is Archermana Little League. The areas for improvement are renovations to Archer Park's diamonds and turf fields. And details, the project will cover turf diamonds for baseball and softball. The field needs to be repaired and drainage needs to be improved. The league frequently cancels games because of flooding after rainstorms. This project will play an important role in enriching the Little League experience for families in the community. So I'm going to stop for a second. And if the Archer Park team, you want to raise your hands, and then we'll invite you into the panelists. Great. Hello.
Hello, Gabriella, do you mind keeping up the slides as we're not as sophisticated as the other organizations?
No, that's all right. And I believe that's
what we have our slide deck for.
Yes. So I'm the only one here today. My name is Manny Jimenez. I am currently the Archermana Little League board president. A little bit about Archer Park, first and foremost. So the park was built in the 50s. They later added a field house in the 1970s. Currently, there is a water spray. There's a full basketball court, a couple of soccer fields that were in the past tennis courts, so they are fenced in, and a playground. And the surrounding area consists of 3 baseball and softball diamonds. And so that is where we would like to put together these resources to figure out a more robust way of having these spaces just be more usable throughout the year. So a little bit about who uses the fields and the amount of folks that come through, right? It is a park, it is open to everyone. But during the school year, there is 6 schools that include Acero, which has 2 grammar schools and a high school, about 3 blocks that would be north. And there is St. Bruno, which is about half a mile to the east, Edwards, which is about a quarter of a mile also to the east, and St. Richard, which is directly across the street off of 50th Avenue. So all these schools throughout the year also use the facilities that we're looking to improve. So the amount of students that are there at Acero it's over 1,500 students. St. Bruno and St. Richard each are in the 220 range, and Edwards, I don't have their information, but it is K through 8 as well. It's a grammar school. So currently we have received, or in the past we have received some generous support from the Cubs Diamond charities that have allowed us to put bandages on the fields so that we're able to provide the space for the play of Little League baseball and softball, and also co-ed and men's 16-inch softball. So what happens during the season is when it rains, the diamonds have been so overused, and the equipment and the resources that we have to preserve them or help them drain water properly, we just don't have them, right? And in the middle of the outfields, when it rains, water tends to stay for 3 to 5 days. So even if we had sophistication on the diamonds in terms of the current dirt sod that we have now, there will still be some issues with the drainage in the outfield. So our plans are to, with this money, this is a project that can be ready and can be within budget for the 3 diamonds that are usable. Our plan is to do 3 infield turf fields that will allow us to have additional resources for the drainage in the middle of the park. Therefore, when you have the infield play and the drainage within the outfield, you'll have much more success. There are currently 5 parks within this immediate area of 60629 and 60632 zip code, and I can go through them. It's Vidum, Pasture, West Lawn, Midway, and Curie Park. And within this area, none of these parks have any type of turf field. If you go into further west, there's a vast majority of parks that have these fields. And a little bit about the numbers, right? So obviously 2021 was a bit comeback year, if you will, right? So the numbers for just the Little League alone was in excess of about 225 kids that play baseball and softball through the Little League. And then the other program that we run through there, which is the co-ed 16-inch and the men's league 16-inch, probably had about a total of 300 plus combined between between both of them. Once these fields are set in play, again, thanks to some of the generous support from the Cubs Diamond Charities, we were able to install lights on some of these fields. And on rainy days or any bad weather, mild weather, I guess I should say. So we would be able to provide these resources in the fall as well, and what folks refer to as fall ball or fall play. Currently, we're not able to do that because any bad weather, we don't have the material, nor do we have the mix to be able to prepare the fields for that, to be able to do that. So what our goal is today, with our excellent partnership with the Chicago Park District, we are an 11-member volunteer board that pretty much does everything from wrapping up hot dogs to cleaning the fields and picking up the trash, plus the vast number of volunteers from the parents that help us run the teams, that help us coordinate the fields, and teach and coach, the Little League piece as well as the softball piece, right? So our current supporters of the project, the Archer Heights Civic Association, 14th Ward Alderman Ed Burke, the Chicago Park District, State Representative Aaron Ortiz, Congressman Marie Newman, Cook County Commissioner Alma Anaya, and obviously all the schools. We had a good conversation with all the schools, and they're on board. The big impact here for us is with the kids being able to be out there more often. Full and active parks, in our opinion, equal less crime, less activities for them to get into some type of trouble, because they're involved in sports, organized sports that allow them to do additional things besides just being in school and having fun outside of their normal life, right? So I think that in itself is the project. And again, this we have priced this before, and we believe that this is something that can come within budget and is ready to go as soon as hopefully we are chosen for the soft. We may not be the most sophisticated, but we are, I think the best project on the Southwest region. So I appreciate everyone's time, and thank you. And any questions, happy to take.
Yeah, thank you very much, Manny. If you have any questions, please post them in the Q&A box on the Archer Park project. Give everyone just another moment or two.
Sure.
Well, I think you probably answered everybody's
I think you
question.
covered it. So. Really, thank you for your time, Manny. Really, very
all right.
Thank
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Looking forward to hearing from you guys real soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we go into next steps, and we'll kind of outline the survey that has already been launched, if you have any more general questions right now about the process in general, perhaps not pertaining to a specific project, we could take a few minutes now for Gabby and I to run through some of those as well. Because we do see one that was submitted earlier in the evening, a question around that there's so many wonderful projects that deserve all these resources and more. What's the city's thinking about, engaging these communities and getting more funding for all of them, rather than in a lot of ways potentially pitting them against each other, because we're not going to be able to award all our semifinalists. So that's a really fair question, because we had over 500 proposals and we selected 21 semifinalists, because every single one of them is a fantastic project, right? It demonstrated a real community need, demonstrated that it would be used heavily by the local neighborhood. And it's feasible. The departments that we worked with said very clearly we could get this done with this amount of funding. For this $10 million initiative that the mayor launched for her 2-year anniversary, that's all we have right now, $10 million for this specific funding source. And we're really excited to see 7 of these projects come to life through this funding. What I will say is that, again, all 21 of these projects were vetted by the departments who own the property, by the Parks District, by CPS, by CPL, and they're excited about these projects. So even if not awarded for this funding, they're now part of their investment roadmaps for their standard operating budget for the coming years. And that's a much softer commitment, but what we want to emphasize is these projects gained a lot of visibility both in the city and it seems like within your communities. And we're excited to, again, if not through this initiative, see more of them come to life in the years to come through the standard operating budget that the city has. I don't know, Gabby, if you'd add anything to that.
Yeah, I think, just to reiterate what Adam is saying, we had really the top kind of infrastructure facilities people within each of these sister agencies or within DPD for vacant lots reviewing these projects. So, I think that, and it was, interesting as we were kind of going through the consensus meetings, they were saying, oh yes, this is a big need in the community. It's something that we have, talked about or wanted to do. And so we are putting what we call these projects into a priority pipeline to, kind of hopefully move to the top of kind of the projects in the near future for each of these. But as we were saying, we do unfortunately only have the $10 million at this moment for this initiative. But, we're hoping that this kind of lays the groundwork for future improvements going forward.
Yeah, so another question, Gabby, if there are any other funding sources that we could point applicants towards if they're not awarded this grant, are you aware of any other kind of similar initiatives happening in the city right now?
For these specifically, I'm not exactly certain. I know that it will be interesting to see what happens with the federal funding that is hopefully going to be happening with the possible infrastructure bill that may be passed at some point. I think that, there may be opportunities for the city going forward with some of that funding, and we'll make sure everyone who registered for tonight and elsewhere, we'll be sure to add you to our lists for DPD so that we can reach out for future initiatives like this going forward if they come up.
Another question I see here is there thinking about how to have equity in this process and put more funding towards city areas that need it more? I think with our initial round of narrowing down to the semifinalist group, we were looking, there were so many factors that, we were really looking at which were the strongest projects that could be accomplished with the budget that was available. So, we were vetting on a level of, are these possible? Is there a demonstrated need? And because we are working with one project being awarded by region, and these were all generated by the community, that means that we received applications from a wide range of zip codes and areas. On this next round of kind of reviewing, the finalists, we will be looking a little bit more finely in terms of, what is available in these communities right now, and where is there possibly demonstrating more need than in other areas. So it is we are going to be awarding one per region. That was kind of the mayor's initiative, was that we wanted to have an exciting project happening in each region of the city. And so that's something that we're committed to. But I think in this final decision-making process, we will be looking at it a little bit more finely in terms of where could there be areas that demonstrate potentially greater need than others. Thanks, Gabby. So one last question here. Would it be possible to split the funding between different projects? It seems like 1.5 million could be shared and multiple projects could really benefit. So right now the answer to that is no. We're only planning to fund 7 projects up to $1.5 million each. So one awarded finalist in each of the 7 planning districts. We could bring that question back to the evaluation committee and the departments to see, what they think of that. But I would say that more likely than not, it is going to end up being 7 awarded projects across the city.
And I think adding on that, unfortunately, costs on infrastructure projects add up very quickly. And the idea is that we could be doing something that is really catalytic for whatever neighborhood or area it's in. And so, that 1.5 million sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but when you're talking about sidewalks and turf and, areas that, substantial areas to changes to fields or buildings, it adds up very, very quickly. And we just wanted to make sure that there was enough in the budget to really, deliver a complete project that was exciting for whichever neighborhood is selected in the end. And let me go, is there more question, or do we want to go to the survey?
No, I think we're good. I see a nice segue question about how can community members express support for a proposed project.
Yeah, so let me go back a little bit, just jumping around here. So the next step, and this is where all of you come in, is that we want your input as part of this final selection process. We have a post-meeting survey. It's actually available right now if you go to chicago.gov/ChicagoWorksChallenge. And the survey is asking for your input on the following scoring criteria. So, would the project lead to greater community activation? And that means, are you going to be seeing more activity in your area? Are you going to be seeing, perhaps more teams or something coming into the space that haven't been involved there before? Is it going to encourage really community gathering in a way that is collaborative and healthy for the community? And then the second part of that, would the project be heavily utilized by the public? As we were saying earlier, we really want this to be a substantially exciting project for this region. And so in terms of just general numbers of people, how many people do you think would be able to enjoy and benefit from that project overall? And then there's also going to be a space to provide any additional comments. So you'll be able to add any other, things that you want to let us know there as well. And then just running through some of these pictures again. Here are a few more pictures from Claremont Academy that, about the space that they're envisioning. A few more from McKinley Park in terms of the map of what they're imagining, and then also kind of existing infrastructure. And then the photos from Archer Park again. So thank you all for your time. We were really excited to have all of these presentations, share them with you. And we will be sending out an email tomorrow morning with the recording of this meeting that you can also share then with other members of your community, and they can also fill out the survey as well. So thank you again, and I hope you all have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.